Welcome to Living Manna Church and for tonight's premiere broadcast tonight on science, philosophy, and metaphysics with our guest speaker and presenter, the world-renowned Dr. Sudha Pandit. We are so excited about this program tonight and everything that we are going to be on this journey, and I'm going to be on this journey with you as if I've never heard of who Jesus is or who is God, and I'm going to follow the questions myself. So I want to just thank you guys for tuning in. And many of you are already in the room. And as we are always saying each week, please take the opportunity to tag and share this live. It will be so incredible. And I want to make sure that we also prepare your hearts just to be open for what God is going to share through his servant. So at this time, I'm going to bring our illustrious presenter to you right now, Dr. Sudha Pandit.
Hello. It is just wonderful to be with you all this. Well, it depends on where you are. Good evening or good morning. But hello. I really hope that when the time we spend together will be truly helpful and beneficial. That's my whole aim. I'll be presenting stuff, and I hope that when you accept the stuff and the information, it'll be really beneficial. And if really is beneficial, you will know it by the end of this first session. Then I invite you to return, because this is going to be a series this week, next week, and the following week as well. So, without any other chats or talks or discussions, let's get on with the PowerPoint frame. Look at those words. Come search with me. Science, philosophy, metaphysics. And look at the topic for this evening, prime reality question. Can someone please explain those words? But first, who is going to do the explanation? Yep, let's get to know him first. The name Subodh Pandit, medical doctor, specialty in internal medicine. I was born and brought up in India, land of tremendous diversity. In academics, I taught medicine as an assistant professor in the United States. Presently, I'm retired. And apart from my keen interest in the medical profession, I had also a very keen interest in faith, God, reason, logic. That pushed me into a search that went on for years and years, both in India and in the United States. With that information, I made it into a seminar, and I've been presenting this now for nearly 20 years. Been to 5 continents, speaking mainly on university campuses on invitation to student clubs. They like this kind of talk. Here are some of the universities I have spoken to, had spoken at. On those campuses: Harvard, MIT, Duke, York in Toronto, Canada, Macquarie in Australia, Queensland, Brisbane in Australia, Manchester, Birmingham, Coventry, Derby in UK, Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, Pretoria in South Africa, etc. So now, since you know a little bit about me, let's get on with the topic. The prime reality question. These words, the question itself, was described by James Sire. And here's the question: what is that thing, or the entity, or the process from which everything else comes? So you immediately see that there are two things here: the thing and everything else. The thing and everything else. Two things. The thing is the basic, fundamental, ultimate thing, prime. And we call it the it. It is the ultimate explanation of our universe. And so, by definition, it explains everything else. So, there is no explanation left to explain it. Therefore, it is unexplained. It causes everything else. So, there's no cause left to cause it. So, it is uncaused. It gives everything else existence, so there is no other point from where it can get its existence, so it is self existent. Now, this is logic, but it's not new. It's been there for about 2,300 years Aristotle, the father of modern day logic, did this logical analysis. In fact, if it is explained, caused, or created, it cannot be ultimate. That is the question asked, the ultimate question, the prime reality question. What is that thing? And that thing is unexplained, uncaused, self existent. The other words that we saw: science, philosophy, metaphysics. Science. The root meaning is just a piece of information. That's science. But the formal usage actually is a scientific method of inquiry. You go through certain steps, and we come to the last step. You analyze the data that you've got from your other steps. And when you analyze the data, you reach a conclusion. That conclusion is scientific information. Please remember, no matter who says anything, if it has not gone through the steps of reasoning and the steps of inquiry, it is not a scientific theory or information. It must go through the scientific method of inquiry, these particular steps. Philosophy, it's also a method of inquiry, but here we do thought experiments, intellectual reasoning, and logical argumentation. That is philosophy for our discussion. Metaphysics, meta means after or beyond. Physics, the physical, natural constituents of the universe: matter, energy, time, and space. So, what is metaphysics then? It is things like, astrology, belief systems, religion, God, fairies, angels. Those are all metaphysics. So we are trying to do metaphysics. Now we're going to use all three. So the prime reality question brings us to what is called the big question: does God exist? We're going to address that using philosophy, intellectual answers, scientific information. And with these two, philosophy and science, with them we will try to answer a metaphysical question regarding the existence of God. Some people say, no, no, you cannot do that, because they claim that science and reason sit on one side, and the other side is faith and religion and God. This side is, good and objective. This side is like a fairy tale, mythological. But that's a misconception. It's very common, but it's misconception that can be put together. They can be brought together if you do it right. And I hope you will be able to see it when we go through today and the next week and the following. Here's what we will do next now. We will start the discussion on the existence of God. Then at a certain point, we'll pull back and we will describe the principles that govern metaphysical topics. It's a little different from discussing, the football game or politics or the weather or your job. It's a little different. We need to describe those principles. Once we describe them, we will come back and resume our topic, which is the existence of God. So let's get started. Number one, the universe consists of four basic components: matter, energy, time, and space. We will call this the stuff. The universe is made up of stuff. This stuff, point number two, is affected by four natural forces. The forces work and affect the stuff. What are the forces? Gravity, electrodynamics, strong nuclear force, and weak nuclear force. Now, you don't have to know what they are. Just know that the stuff is worked on by physical forces. These forces don't just act on their own. Point number three, the forces are governed by very strict natural laws: the laws of motion, the laws of gravity, the laws of chemistry, the laws of electrodynamics, the laws of thermodynamics, and a whole bunch of them. But these laws are very, very strict. Not only are they strict, point number four, the laws are mathematically related, not only to the stuff, but also to the four natural forces. And they are related in extremely precise ratios. I mean, mind bogglingly stunningly precise. We will give a few examples if you want some at the Q&A time, but now let's accept that they are extremely precise. So the basics of our universe: the stuff, matter, energy, time, and space, the forces that act on that, the laws of science that govern those forces, and the fact that these laws of science are very precise in their mathematical ratios. So now let's go to our prime reality question with these words. So here's the question: what is the ultimate source of the stuff, the forces, the laws, and the mathematical ratios? Are you ready? There are only two possibilities. Here they are. Only two options. Number one, an intelligent agent who had access to the stuff, the forces, the laws, and the mathematics. That's option number one. Option number two, absolute nothingness. Wow. Are you stunned? I was stunned when I saw these two. That's all there is. No other option can be proposed. These two are fixed, rigid, and have stunned rational thinkers. I want you to be a rational thinker. There are only two possibilities. When you say, wow, really? So let's double check them. Have other proposals also been made? Yes. Some have proposed a theory that appears to be in between. It is not nothing, not a living agent, it's a non living agent, for example. Singularity, quantum tunneling. Look, you don't have to understand what these words mean, because the next question is, where did they and their energy come from? And when you answer that, we go back to square one. They came from either the hand of an agent or from absolute nothingness. So no matter what theory is proposed, it'll always boil down to just these two: an agent or absolute nothingness. Only two theories can be entertained. That's stunning. But is it possible that scientists have proposed absolute nothingness as a true origin? Look at these words, and I'm quoting now. So from nothing, our universe begins. So, other word, nothing. By the way, I have highlighted those words just so that we can see what they are saying. Where did the laws of nature come from? They came from nothing, the void out of which the universe spontaneously arose. Quentin Smith said, the only reasonable belief is that we came from nothing, by nothing, and for nothing. So, those words describe actually absolute nothingness. These declarative statements clearly show that nothingness has been proposed. So our description of those two propositions is actually established. It is very stunning, my friends. Many people have never looked at these. Only two theories have been proposed. Theory one: a living, intelligent agent provided the stuff, the forces, the laws, and the mathematics to compose this universe. Theory two: absolute nothingness provided the stuff. Whoa, wait a minute. Absolute nothingness provided the stuff? Where did they get the stuff from? And then the stuff, undirected, unsupervised, constructed our universe. At the prime level, we're going to say it again. Now we're going to the point of origin. So the two theories. Here's one, theory one. An agent was at the origin, supplying whatever was needed and directing the construction of the universe to completion, to the point where we have it today. Theory two: nothing was at the origin. The universe just happened to construct itself. But note, theory two has no description of any source or thing that might have built it. The prime reality question asked, what is that thing or the entity that gave rise to everything else? Theory 2 has no real thing that it points to. Now you ask yourself, which theory is rational? Theory 1 or theory 2? Which is irrational? Which makes sense? And which appears absurd? Which is mentally satisfying? And which is not mentally satisfying? You know, I've spoken to people, and when I'm chatting with some of them, when we come to this point that there are only two possibilities, only two explanations for our universe, an agent or absolutely nothing, some of them will say, that's it. I need no other discussion. I got it. I can make a decision right here. Just because we delineated the two theories. So it's very important to delineate it, my friends. Agent, nothing. Those are the only two possibilities. Here's a real example. These ideas are not floating out in the clouds. Lawrence Krauss, a theoretical physicist and a professor at MIT, has written a book, A Universe from Nothing. Nature, which is a very prestigious journal in the United Kingdom, describing this book, and I'm quoting the words now, in this nothingness, there are many wonderful things to see. Oops, a little slowly. In this nothingness, there are things, not just things, but wonderful things, and not just wonderful things, many wonderful things. Don't you see that contradiction? We've got to reconcile this contradiction. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, a very popular scientist, has kind of resolved this contradiction. Here's how he has resolved it. And I'm quoting his words. By the way, these words are in that book. I have read that book from cover to cover multiple times. These are Tyson's words. Nothing is not nothing. Nothing is something. Excuse me? Nothing is not nothing. Nothing is something. So consider two guys, friends. One of them says, hey, I want to give you something. Put out your hand. Okay, here, take it. Hey, you didn't give me anything. No, look carefully into your palm. Yeah, I'm looking carefully into my palm. There is nothing. That's the point. Nothing is something. Say thank you. Why are you so ungrateful? Got the point? So will Krauss and Tyson allow us to say that opposites are the same? Above is below, and below is the same as above. Kindness is the same as cruelty. Cruelty is the same as kindness. Hate is the same as love, and love is the same as hate. Really? Are these all of these things the same? Is nothing really something? And nothing is not nothing? Remember what we said? No matter who says it, if it has not gone through the steps of scientific study, it is not a scientific statement. Watch that. Think critically and rationally. So we're going to pull back now and then go to study and look at some of the principles that must govern us. So think about this for just a few seconds. We'll take a break right now. Okay, now let's go to the principles that must govern. There are 7 principles. We must do critical and rational thinking. We must describe our starting position, which is actually an attitude. We will choose to be neutral inquirers, looking for the weight of evidence, and we will make a correct atmosphere so that we are neutral inquirers, and we'll take up Rushd's challenge. Rushd was a Muslim scholar way back in the 12th century. And we'll look at what he said way back then. It's still resonating here today. And with those words, then we'll go on to what is called a pan process. These words are kind of new to some of us. So let's go through them one by one. Critical thinking is when you do the thinking based on your own values, not because someone else agrees or disagrees with you. So, what's critical thinking? You doing the thinking. What is rational thinking? When you think and do the thinking, you provide an intellectual reason for your position and your opinion. Specifically, putting away your personal emotional preference. I'm not saying this because I like it. I'm saying this because one, two, three reasons. That's rational thinking. What about starting positions? There are three. They are attitudes: believing inquirer, disbelieving inquirer, and a neutral inquirer. What are they? The believing inquirer already has believed. So, how did he reach that position of belief? By blind acceptance. He didn't go through an inquiry. Similarly, the disbelieving inquirer, he has already reached his position of disbelief. How did he reach that? By blind dismissal. He dismissed all the evidence and he did it blindly. We should not be blind acceptors nor blind dismissers. We should do neutral inquiry and not reach the position prior to the inquiry. So we will do an inquiry. And what's the inquiry now from a neutral point of view is to look for evidences and pieces of information so that we can make a final conclusion. So we avoid being blind believers, we avoid being blind disbelievers. We look for neutral way of starting. By the way, these three attitudes are in all of us all the time. And we can choose which one to use at any given time. And in our minds, there is no boundary or fence separating one attitude from another. So we can easily flit from one to the other. Sometimes we ourselves don't know which one we have brought to the table. Therefore, we must remind ourselves and make a deliberate choice to work as neutral inquirers. So, what is neutral inquiry? Being fair and balanced. There are 5 points that make it neutral. The first one is you always choose two theories to examine, never just one theory. And we make two theories and examine both. This will avoid default conclusions. What's a default conclusion? Let me ask you a question. When is a good decision a bad decision, and when is a bad decision a good decision? And you say, hey, wait a minute, that sounds a little contradictory, but really it is not. Let me tell you why. Suppose you are, and if you are faced with these options: good, better, and best, and if you just chose the good, that's a bad decision. You should have chosen the best. Similarly, when you are faced with bad, worse, and worst, and you held on to the bad, that's the best decision. You avoided the worst. So, what am I saying? It is possible to get to a claim and look at it and say, hey, that's really good. I'm going to grab it. But before grabbing, look at the other side, the other theory that might be better. You should go for the better. Or you might see a claim that is, oh, it's come some questions over there. I want to discard it, but wait, before discarding it, if you discard that, you will be left with the other, and the other is worse. So don't discard this, stay with the bad, don't go to the worst one on the other side. What are we saying? Look at both. When you look at both, that is first part of neutral inquiry. And when you look at both, third and fourth point on the screen, we treat both on an equal footing and give both the same chance to win. That is being fair. You know, friends, if you are fair, your conclusion, you will know, is a strong conclusion. If you are not fair, you will know that you are not being fair. And your conclusion will always be weak and shaky. Don't go for shaky bases. Inquire and be fair. And when that conclusion is made in a fair manner, you will know that the conclusion is strong. And number five out there, we set the criteria, and we're going to set the criteria for our evaluation right now. Three, we will value information and evidence above mere opinion. Number two, we will go for logic, not crass illogic. And number three, we will go for reason and not absurdity. I hope you recognize that a few minutes ago we did come across illogic and absurdity. We should move away from those. Then we can be good, neutral inquirers. So, information, logic, and reason. Those are the ones that will guide us. Number four is the weight of evidence. In metaphysics, we cannot claim to have final proofs. The best we can do is to examine both and look for the weight of evidence. Some say, no, no, I don't want weight of evidence, I want proof. Yes, proof is ideal, but we cannot reach it. And so in this world, the best we can do is go for the weight of evidence. In fact, that's exactly what the courts of law do. They don't have proofs, they have only weight of evidence. That's why you have the prosecuting attorney and the defense counsel. And they make their cases, and then the judge decides on the weight of evidence. For example, in a civil case, he will say, the weight of evidence is clear and convincing, and therefore he brings the gavel down on this side. That's what we will do. Look for the weight of evidence. What's the meaning of the weight of evidence? It means both sides have evidence. Yes, both sides. Both have gaps and discrepancies. So merely finding evidence or finding a gap or discrepancy is not sufficient. We should look at both, and the side that has best evidence and least amount of discrepancies and gaps, that is the side that has the weight of evidence, and that is the one we will choose. Number five, the correct atmosphere. We need to do that because we are all biased. Please confess that you are biased, because we all are. I am biased, you are biased. We need help in doing a neutral inquiry. And what's that help? We need to create an atmosphere. And we need four factors. They are very effective factors. We need all four. You can't leave out even one, because if you leave out even one, your journey will be bumpy and rough. So here are the four: humility, honesty, calmness, and respect. These four will keep you in the neutral inquiry mode. What do these words mean? Humility. It is the cardinal, prime, and most essential factor of all. A learning attitude, teachable spirit. You stand small in the face of the grandeur of the universe. How much of information is out there? We know just so little. We are small. Be humble. Honest. There's a lot of dishonesty out there, especially with metaphysical discussions. So I had to devise a definition. And here's my definition of honesty: the willingness to give credit to a point or argument, no matter who brings it to the table, and even if that credit has the possibility of destroying my own previous stand or position. And I've written my name out there because that's my definition of honesty that I used. Give credit where it is due, and withhold credit where it is not due. I call it the wow factor. The world has lots of information, and some of them are truly impressive. So when that impressive piece of information comes to you and me, what should we be willing to say? We should be willing to say, wow. We shouldn't figure out whether, if I say wow, then who will get the credit, that person or me? No, that would be dishonest. If it is impressive, you say wow. If it is not impressive, you say it's not impressive. Give credit where it is due. That is the meaning of honesty. Calmness. Look, anger fights your own clear thinking. Rage is not conducive to judgment, my friends. The most effective weapon, you want to win the argument? You really want to win it? Then you must have a strong intellectual argument, not loud, haughty outbursts. Some people think that the louder they are, the stronger their argument. No, a good argument is an intellectually strong argument. And calmness, which is the natural outcome of humility and honesty, will give the best chance to develop that argument. Go for it, my friends. Stay calm. Even if you disagree, stay calm and bring a good argument. That way, we can have a real good discussion. Fourth is respect. It is not agreement, not admiration. It is the right we give others to make their own choices and beliefs without us looking down at them or calling them names. You find a lot of name calling out there. We will avoid that. We will be respectful. We will maintain their dignity at all times, even if we disagree. To respectfully disagree is a virtue. So, these four: humility, honesty, calmness, and respect. These factors, by the way, will work in any situation in life, not just in our discussion in this metaphysical topic. You may be involved at polar opposites in the most intense and severe controversy, but you will come out as friends if you keep to these four: humility, honesty, calmness, respect. You know what? Try it out. You know where to try it? At home. That's the best place. Or with your friends, school, wherever, college. By the way, if you have been really paying attention to the Saturday programs or to the Monday programs, this is another way of looking at the same thing. So when you have two or three different avenues saying the same thing, that's credible. That gives you credibility. And so these four: humility, honesty, calmness, respect, are really credible. I want you to think about this. So let's us take a short break. All right. Number six was rushed. Remember that Muslim scholar? 12th century was a period of great religious discourse. I mean, high level debates, especially between the Muslims and the Western scholars. Abul Walid Muhammad bin Rushd, also known as Averroes, he stated this: you should always, in a philosophical discussion, cite the views of your opponent. Failure to do so is an implicit acknowledgement of the weakness of your own case. So, what should you do? You should go to the other side as well. Exactly what we are saying. Look at both the theories. A neutral inquiry will always examine both the theories in a fair and equal manner. What's a practical way to do it? The PAN process. So, what is the PAN process? It's a method of inquiry. The word pan means going across. So you don't stay at one side, you go across. Like Pan American Airlines goes across America. It also describes the process of sifting. They panned for gold way back in the 19th century during the gold rush, separating the gravel and the rocks from the nuggets of gold. Sift, pan. It also is the first three letters of my family name, Pandit. This is the method I formulated and I used for my own search when addressing controversial issues. By the way, this PAN process has been tested. A few years ago, I was in South Africa. I was invited to give a 1 hour lecture because some of them had heard that I had a few ideas about addressing controversial topics. So the Department of Political Science invited me to give a 1 hour lecture to the doctoral and postdoctoral students in the Department of Political Science. Now, in South Africa, it was very divisive with apartheid, the idea still lingering there. So they wanted me to give a description of how do we address controversial topics. So I went and told them about the PAN process. 1 hour I discussed it out with them. When we finished, 6 of those students came up to me one by one and they said, Doc, your ideas are very reasonable. You know what? I am going to take some of those principles and apply them into my doctoral dissertation and into my postdoctoral dissertations. So, what am I saying? I'm saying that this process has been tested in public. When two theories are in conflict, we look at the pros and cons of both. That makes 4 columns of argument. It looks like this: 4 columns of argument, a pro and a con for each side. For example, atheism and theism, those are the two theories we have in our hands right now. Column 1, arguments for atheism. Column 2, arguments against the believing side, who say that God exists. Column 3, arguments for the believing side. And column 4, arguments against the atheistic claim that God does not exist. By the way, these columns can be addressed in any order. There's no specific order because the arguments in one column do not spill over and affect the arguments in the other column. So you can start with 4 if you want, or 2 or 3, any of them. We've made it like this, so we'll just go ahead with this order. So here are the principles. We will do critical, rational thinking. Think for yourself. Provide a reason. Number 2, the starting positions are believing, disbelieving, neutral. We'll choose the neutral attitude. Make a deliberate choice. And if we are to be neutral, then we have to examine both the options, both the theories, looking for the weight of evidence. Both sides have evidence. We're looking for the weight. To do a real inquiry that is neutral, we will need a proper atmosphere: humility, honesty, calmness, respect. We accept Rush's challenge. You must cite the opponent. That's what we're doing, both the sides. And the practical version of that is the PAN process: pros and cons for both sides, making 4 columns of argument. And let's start with the first one. Column 1, for atheism, for the claim that God does not exist. Arguments for atheism, none. Wow. Did you say wow? I hope you did, because I'm saying none. So we have to ask ourselves, why do you say none? Well, there are 2 reasons. Number 1, the only proof of atheism is disproof of God's existence. The word itself, atheism, a means without, theism, theos, without God. So you have to deal with God and throw him off. Once you do that, then you have atheism. But that, my friends, is column 2. Hitting off God's existence is column 2, not column 1. So that's the first reason why we say there are no columns in this, there are no arguments in this column. The second reason, this statement is a negative statement. God is not existent. God is not present in the universe. It's a negative statement. And a statement in the negative is valid only when every possibility has been exhausted. For example, if I claim that my son was not at home and our house had 20 rooms, how many rooms should I have inspected before making a legitimate claim that he is not at home? Or 20. If you didn't go to all the 20 rooms, you could not say he is not at home. He might be hiding up in the attic. You should have checked there too. In other words, the claim of an absence is true only when all the possibilities have been examined and set aside. Yes. So we are saying atheism says God is not present in the universe. So, have you checked, or have you looked at every corner of your town, country, continent, world? How about the moon? Do you know the moon has the dark side of the moon is always dark? That's why we see the same pattern when we look at the moon. That's all we will see. This has only one face facing the us. The other side is always dark. Have you been there? How about the sun, 93 million miles away? That's one star. Our Milky Way galaxy has 200 billion stars. That's with a B, billion stars. What about the known universe? How many galaxies are there? Astronomers have guesstimated for us that we have at least 600 billion galaxies. Did you say wow? Were you honest? Did you say wow? So, we cannot even start our search. So, how can we come and reach the end of it then? So, here are four reasons why human beings will never be able to do a proper search. Here are the four reasons. The universe is too vast. First of all, the universe is made up of basically two parts. One is the known universe. That has a boundary. That's our knowledge is the boundary. But we know beyond that there is the universe. So there are two parts of the universe, the known universe and the universe. The known universe itself is 92 billion light years across. Did you say wow? I hope you did. To go from one end to the other at the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second. I'm not sure how much you can inspect while you're doing that at that speed, but if you do it at that speed, going from one end to the other, it'll take you 92 billion years. And then you've got to go there and then move a little bit to the side and come back, and then go a little bit to the side and come back, each of them 92 billion years, and come back. And when you have finished this level, then you go to the next level and go back and forth back, and then that's how you finish, do the whole thing. That's the known universe, 92 billion light years. By the way, they have done calculations about what the universe might be. They don't know the maximum, but they know the minimum. That universe minimum has to be, would it be twice our known size? 3 times, 5 times, 10 times? You know what they've calculated? That universe is 250 times our known universe. Got the point? Point number two. If you go to point A, God could have gone to point B. So if you say he's not anywhere, you should know point A, B, C, D at the same time. In other words, you should inspect the whole universe at the same point of time. Then you can validly, really with valid, credibility, say that he's not there. Point number three. 95% of our universe is invisible to us. It's called dark matter, dark energy. Why do they call it dark? Because they cannot be detected by the most sophisticated scientific instrument that we possibly have today. It's dark. We can't detect it. We can detect only 5% of the known universe, zero of the rest of the universe. So the hundreds of billions of visible galaxies form less than 5% of what we can inspect. Point number four. Physics and mathematics together have predicted the existence of the fourth dimension of space. Look, we live in a 3D, three dimension, length, breadth, and depth, and one of time. What is the fourth dimension of space? We have absolutely no idea of that, my friend, because we live in a three-dimensional world existence. There, we have no idea. So, of our known universe, we know only 5%. Of that 5%, we haven't checked even 1%. Of the rest of the universe, we know zero, and zero of the fourth dimension of space. Are you with me? How rational, really, to claim that there is no God? You decide. Of course, Everyone has the right to believe that God does not exist. Yes, that is your right. But that belief will have no rational basis. It will always remain a private, personal choice of yours without a base. It cannot be counted as a credible theory. This column is empty. By the way, there's only one column, but this column is empty. Think, take your time, reflect calmly, carefully, critically, rationally. We have three columns still to go. We'll start them next week. So, column number one is done. Three quarters still to go. Let's get to the Q&A.
Okay, so Dr. Pandit, let me just say, I am over here. I'm looking at the comments, and I mean they are absolutely just so engaged. Now, I have to say, I'm entering in a realm that, even though I enjoy apologetics, but this realm of uh, foundation that you're studying, at first it was getting a little murky for me, and not and murky in the sense of because you're making me have to go deeper in my thought process, not just the
Hmm.
surface enjoyment of an argument or discussion. Now I'm putting myself in the place of I don't know what I don't know, and so now I'm kind of okay. Where is he going with this? It is when you started with the analogy that the door opened for me, and I'm sure I've read in the comments where how can you say that your son, if you have a house and your house has 27, 28 rooms, and you have a son, and you say, okay, can you say that your son is not home? How can you say your son is not home until you investigated all the rooms? That is where everything kicked open. Like, okay, wait, like, uh-oh, something just happened here. And then to go the into nature, into science, into the sun, into the stars, into the galaxies, into light years, and there's uh, dark, darker places of the universe we don't know. The argument against God, you have to go through all of those areas, which is absolutely impossible. So even for me sitting here, I'm of someone of faith already, has actually strengthened my faith sitting here and literally in 15 minutes. Uh, so I don't want to make this my own testimony. But I'm here now as the moderator for the questions and answers. So please, at this juncture, Dr. Panda would love to answer your questions and even look at maybe some of your comments. Okay, okay, here we go. Here's one here from. I'll post it here. Where is she? I just
By the
saw it.
way, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you well. Yes.
Okay. Uh, we will we will accept every single question. We will never leave out even one question. So you can ask any question you want. All right. So
Okay.
here's one more comment on the questions. You know, which is the dumbest question?
Oh no,
And which,
actually, it was so many
oh,
comments.
no,
Yep,
no,
we
no.
were good.
Let me finish.
Okay, okay, because everyone's
You know
excited.
which is the dumbest question? No, which is the dumb question and which is dumbest question? Let me tell you which is the dumb question. The dumb question is the question you did not ask. And the dumbest question is the question that you did not ask because you were scared what others will feel of you, think of you if you asked it. That's the dumbest of all. So, a dumb question is what you did not ask. The moment you ask it, it ceases to be dumb. Any question ceases to be dumb the moment you ask. So, please ask.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, I'm going to start uh, with the first questions that I saw. There she is. All right, for Michelle Watson Grant, the question is the mind metaphysical?
Oh, that's a very good question. Um, I know you're thinking, so there's the brain and there's the mind. The brain is physical. There's all these neurons and all the proteins in doing their stuff. but what goes on is activities. The activities are metaphysical. So mental ideas, the mind that does its work, the brain that does its work in a mental way, the mental part is metaphysical. Yes, indeed. Good question.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, one here. Deborah Haling, what argument do an atheist use to explain the existence of evil if they don't believe in God and the Bible?
Remember, we are discussing only one column today, which is the argument for atheism. This one will come in the next column when we are trying to decide the arguments against the belief in God. And this question of the existence of evil is the strongest argument that is built up. So we will discuss this. And good question. If they don't believe in God and the Bible, how can they explain the existence of evil? A really good question. Yes. Well, let's just parse it out in with at least one sentence here. If you do not have a reference point, you cannot call anything good or evil. Once again, if you do not have a reference point, a universal reference point, you can't call anything good or evil, especially morally good or evil. Therefore, you're making a real good point out there. You must have a reference point. Without that, you can't call anything evil or even good. So we've started the discussion. We'll continue it next week. Excellent question.
Okay, awesome. All right, this is from K.D. King. I fully believe I'm anticipating the denial of those in the Bible. We can prove Jesus existed, that God exists, but can we prove God spoke and the Bible is it and no other text speaks for him?
Once again, maybe we didn't discuss this fully enough. We are going step by step. So the first question was the prime reality question, which says, does God exist? And we said we need 4 columns of arguments for that, and we did only one. Once we settle whether there is a God, then we ask the next question, is there another theory that hits at God? And that is a theory of evolution. So we'll deal with that. When we've settled with that, then we ask ourselves, can we identify this God? That will come later. Keep your mind open. We are going to answer all these questions, not answer, we'll address them in as open and direct manner as possible. We must come to a point where we'll say, I see the path, I can see the road, I will walk in it. So that's our goal. Good question.
Awesome. I'm going to go with this one as well. Uh, what really do atheists believe?
Once again, every question, by the way, has an assumption attached to it. This question is very, very sharp, and in fact, very deep. The word atheist itself is saying there is no God. That's all it's saying. It is not saying what there is. For example, if I say he is not 6 feet tall, I have not said what his height is. I've only said he is not 6 feet tall. So when an atheist says that God does not exist, they don't tell us what exists. So the question really is very intriguing. What do they believe? And if you look at it deeper and deeper, it's a belief that is a non belief. It's a philosophy that is a non philosophy. It is non logical. In other words, you cannot really grasp it. And that's the difficult part. And that's what we're trying to express and trying to show, that actually there is no such thing as a real belief based on anything that we can test to be true or false. So it is a claim that is baseless. In other words, there's no base for us to check it out. So that's a real good question. What do they believe? We know what they don't believe. We don't know what they believe. That's a very good question, because we should address that when we deal with anybody who says that he's an atheist. And I've dealt with all of them, and many times I have been an atheist in the back of my mind, yeah, struggling with the question of God's existence. So when you do that, you must come to a place where you should be able to say, I don't want this, but I do want this. Somewhere along the line, they have to come to that. So that's a good question. Very
Awesome.
difficult to say what they believe.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, everyone, we will be back next Thursday, Eastern Standard Time here with Dr. Pandit in this class, a discussion of science, philosophy, and Metaphysics Thursday. So please make sure those of you who have been watching, please share the link as well with those who may be interested in it, and share it so they can come and join the discussion and be open and listening. As Dr. Pandit says, let's follow the questions. Let's follow the questions. So, Dr. Pandit, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We are looking forward to next week. And to everybody that's here, we are so grateful. Thank you to our Living Manna Church family, for Pastor Myers and Atante, who currently are on vacation. And I think they're watching from Hawaii. Yes, we are jealous. So, anyway, but have a wonderful time. They've worked hard.
Have a great week, everyone.
Yes,
We'll
have
meet
a
again.
great week. And so, hey, God bless you guys. And we will see you next Thursday.